All right, so the Big Ten championships are coming up next week, Saturday and Sunday, going down at the University of Maryland. And as always, there's a ton of questions going into this tournament. There's a ton of curiosities, interesting storylines. So I want to lay out the 6 biggest storylines in my mind going into the Big Ten championship. So number 6, who is Iowa's team? Who's on Iowa's team? Who does Iowa send? This is a big question. I feel fairly certain to the answer. But I do know in the last week or so, it's still been a little bit up in the air. So I'll get into some of the weight classes that are being contested, questioned, etc. The first one, the biggest one, it's the biggest one, heavyweight. Who are they going to send? Are they going to send Bradley Hill, who's kind of been their starter most of the season? Or will it be major recruit, two-way sport, two-sport athlete Ben Keeter? Now, Keeter wrestled the last match against Connor Doucette of Oklahoma State, and he won. Doucette's been ranked in the top 10 much of the year. That was a huge win. That's the best win that the two of them have together. But, so you would think, based on that, all right, he's the better guy. They'll probably send him. Well, it doesn't appear that's going to be the case because in the latest coaches ranking, Bradley Hill was ranked. Well, you say, well, that's just who got ranked, right? Well, that's who Iowa submitted to get ranked. So that has actual, real value and meaning and indicates something. And it indicates to me that Iowa's actually not going to send Ben Keeter. It looks like they're going to send Bradley Hill, okay, for one. Now, throughout the season, it's been a little bit back and forth on 33 and 49, and it felt settled between Brody Teske holding down 33 and Caleb Bracci at 149. But I do know I think there were maybe even some wrestle-off matches, some final, things that are determining who's wrestling. But it's going to be Brody Teske, I believe. That's who got submitted into the coaches ranking, and Caleb Bracci. So those are the two guys, and I think those are great choices because I think those two had the best seasons for Iowa at those respective weight classes. Now, the number one question is still 184, but I feel pretty certain on this one. I don't think they're sending Gabe Arnold. I think it's going to be Aiden Riggins. Now, so you're saying, well, we'll check the coaches ranking. Well, there's no one ranked at 184 for Iowa because I'm not sure either of them, Aiden Riggins' season is not rankable, and I don't think Gabe Arnold meets the criteria to be ranked. There's match minimums at the weight, etc., and I don't think Gabe meets that threshold. So there's no information to be gleaned in the coaches ranking, but I think at this point it's safe to assume no Gabe Arnold this season for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I think we'll see Aiden Riggins. So that's their team, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough team for sure. Number 5 question. Will the number 1 seed come out of 141 pounds? I think that is a high probability. Even if it's sort of obvious if Bo Bartlett wins, he's going to be the 1 seed, right? He is the consensus number 1 ranked guy in America. If he wins this weight, sure, he'll be number 1. But I think if Jesse Mendez wins this weight, he should be considered for the 1 seed. If Real Woods, despite having 2 losses, if he wins this weight, that means he will likely avenge one, if not both of his losses. He will have at least outplaced both his losses from throughout the year. Brock Hardy, I don't know if he can climb all the way to get to the 1 seed, but if he wins this bracket, he's going to be on the short list because it's going to be, the ACC winner is going to be a really high seed. It's likely, Ryan Jack's going to be the favorite there, although he's got losses on the year. He lost to Mendez this season. So I think there's a possibility it does come out of that. It'll be tough if it's not a combination of Bo Bartlett, Real Woods, or Jesse Mendez, who are really the top 3 guys at this weight class. But I do think we'll see the 1 seed come out of here. But I think there's also, I mentioned this weight class, there's an opportunity for tons of upheaval there. Okay, next biggest question. How do the Penn State lower seeds, the lower ranked guys, fare at Big Tens? Because if you look at, and who am I talking about here? I'm talking about Braden Davis. I'm talking about Aaron Nagao. I'm talking about Tyler Kasek. I'm talking about Bernie Truax. Now, all of these guys, I think there's incredible actual opportunity for them to climb up the rankings, to climb up the not just the placement where they're projected to place, but the overall seeding. You look at 125 is a great example. We know about this way. It's been talked about ad nauseum just how wide open it is, and it's wide open. And Braden Davis is good enough to walk through that door, right? I think that can't be denied. He is in every single match with all these guys, and he could climb up. He's ranked, I think he's like the 6th or 7th highest ranked guy in the Big Ten, but if he was a finalist, if he was someone that was wrestling in the 3rd, 4th place match at this tournament, I wouldn't be surprised at all. So I think he could climb up. Tyler Kasek, I think he's going to be on the same side as Ridge Lovett. I think he'll be the 4, and I think D'Amelio will be the 5. So if he can beat D'Amelio again, which he already has, it's a potential rematch with Ridge Lovett. Now, Ridge won that match, but that was a really competitive match. Tyler did what very few wrestlers have been able to do this year, which is take Ridge Lovett down. He's so good in the counter scoring. He's a really tough guy to take down. Tyler was able to do it. A few tweaks here and there. Could Tyler Kasek pull one of the bigger upsets of the conference tournament? It should not be considered an impossibility. He's going to be in that match. You've got Aaron Nagao. He's definitely, maybe, I don't want to say regressed. I think he was really good last year, but he was a little up and down and finished on an upswing. He lost a couple matches, but overall, he's looked pretty solid this season. He was in the match with Dylan Ragusin. I think, going into that match, while, Nagao, he lost to Buzakis, he lost to Shaver, I believe, he's lost to Ragusin, but I don't think you can discount the fact that Aaron Nagao is good enough to win this weight class. I think he could come out the Big Ten champion here at 133 pounds. So he's a guy to watch. And then Bernie Truex, Lenny Pinto's the highest ranked guy in the country at this weight, and Bernie was right there with him. It was Lenny early, and I think for Bernie, the key is how does he perform early in matches. So these are the guys, for Penn State, you've got guys like Kirkfleet and Brooks and Levi, and it feels like you kind of know how they're going to perform. But I'm most curious to see how these 4 guys that are maybe a little lower in the rankings, but seem to have incredible potential to climb them. So keep your eye out for those guys. Next one, it's another number 1 seed question. Will we see the top seed come out of the Big Ten championships? You already have 1 versus 2, Matt Ramos and Drake Ayala, but you've also got Pat McKee. Pat McKee tech Caleb Smith. Caleb Smith beat Matt Ramos. You've got Eric Barnett. You've got Braden Davis, who I already mentioned. You also have Michael D'Agostino, who, this is a guy that's placed really high at NCAAs before. He's beaten a lot of these guys. I think he's majored Matt Ramos in his career. And he's the lowest ranked of the guys I mentioned here at 125 pounds. Now, I think given what we've seen across the country this weight class, it's not a guarantee if you win this bracket, you'll be the 1 seed. But there's a distinct possibility, right? Now, what does the 1 seed mean at 125 pounds? Probably not much at all, right? We've seen number 1 rankings. It's almost a detriment at this point. Though I will say, Matt Ramos has held on to it for quite a long time at this point. He started ranked number 1, took some losses. He's been back on top since, I want to say, late December, early January, and he's been up there. Now we'll see if he can stay up there. This will be the biggest test of his season so far. But I think there is a good chance the number 1 seed will come out of the Big Tens at 125 pounds. Next biggest question is, how does the team race look? Now, obviously, there's one aspect of the team race that is not a big question, and that's that Penn State should and will run away with this. But the question for me is, who takes second? Who takes third? Who takes fourth? Because I think you've got Iowa, you've got Nebraska, you've got Michigan. I think all 3 of those teams are going to be in the mix for that second place spot. So Iowa beat Nebraska, Nebraska beat Michigan, Michigan beat Iowa. We've got as we call here at Flow, the Ranker's Delight, and I think Nebraska and Michigan have both been really rounding into form, and honestly, Iowa finished on a really high note as well. So good momentum for every single team coming into the Big Ten championships, especially Michigan, who, man, they had some down performances. You think about their duel against Nebraska. You think about their duel where they lost to South Dakota State. They had a rough CKLV. You're like, man, they bought all these guys. They brought all these transfers in. Is this just going to blow up in their face? Well, now you look at it, and they're really viable at 125, at 33, 41. 49, how's Austin Gomez going to look? That's a huge question. Will Lewan's proven. 65, can Cam Amin get back? If he can get back, that's huge for them. Can Shane Griffith win this bracket? That was a kind of a crazy question like a week ago, but now it's realistic. Can Davison make the finals? Can he narrow the gap a little bit against Greg Kerfleet? If they can do all that, they can win it. Nebraska, I could run through this similar scenarios. They could win it at 125. They could win 141. They could win 49. Can't count out Peyton Robb, right? Can't count out Lenny Pinto to win this way. Silas Allred was a Big Ten champion last year. So they're going to be really tough to beat. And of course, we've seen the Hawkeyes. We've seen what they can do. They thumped Nebraska this year. They just beat the consensus number 2 Oklahoma State. And so now Iowa looks to be in great position as well to contend for the spot. So that's the next biggest question in my mind. And then, of course, the biggest question for the Big Ten championships is the availability, the health, the performance of Carter Starocci. We saw him get injured against Edinboro. Huge bummer. Very disappointing to see someone that's going for history, trying to be a 4-time NCAA champion, someone with the longest win streak in NCAA wrestling. And now, one little twist to the knee, one little decision as he's going for the tech fall. And now it's all, at the very least, up in the air. It's at least a question. Now, as we've been saying on the show all week long, there's a scenario Carter just rolls up and just rolls through this bracket and he's fine. We've seen knee injuries like that. It looks bad and then they're okay. But there's also the other side where you could see him injury default out of this tournament and have to take 2 losses, and then that opens it up. And so there's significant variance. He could run through and win, and we'll know exactly where he's at. He could wrestle a match and forfeit out. We've seen that in the past. Or he could not take the mat in any meaningful way, and then we'll be left to wonder for another 2 weeks how healthy Carter is and how ready he could possibly be for the NCAA championships. That's the number one storyline. I feel like this is going to be the most analyzed gate in America. Everyone's going to be watching how Carter walks and how does he look. And I understand the fascination because this is a fascinating guy. He's an incredible competitor. And what's great about conferences and NCAAs is also what makes it brutal. It's like the dates are the dates. It's not about who's the best. It's who's the best that day. Not to get overly cliche, but it's true. And history hangs in the balance. So everyone's going to have their eyes on Carter Starocci. Everyone's going to have their eyes on the Big Ten championships. I can't wait for them. It's an incredible 2 days of wrestling. It's fire right out of the gate. The opening rounds are incredible, and it doesn't ever look back. There's all these huge matches for NCAA allocations and qualifications. So make sure you're watching the Big Ten championships along with all the other conferences as much as you can all weekend long next week.